So, a poster asked, what would happen if James Gunn's Superman came out in 2013 instead of Man of Steel? Someone replied, DC would be more successful than Marvel right now. To everybody that think this, no, it wouldn't be. And it has nothing to do with James Gunn. It has everything to do with WB. WB execs basically sabotaged the entire production. They probably promised a whole bunch of money in returns to their investors, and when it didn't hit that threshold, they panicked. And that's essentially what would have happened if James Gunn was in charge of that, even Kevin Feige. The whole entire point here is that DC is just bad at their jobs. They hired somebody to do a job, and then they failed at allowing that person to do so. Like, imagine if somebody hired you to do some work on their house, like build a deck or something like that. And as you're doing it, they're judging you and harassing you and telling you that you're doing things wrong, you're using the wrong wood, blah, blah, blah. And then they fired you and hired somebody else to basically take control of it. That creates chaos because now that person has to figure out what you were planning to do and then try to either copy it or change it around altogether. And then it could fail. The problem with DC is that they did not understand that there was a grander scheme of things, whereas Marvel did. So I would even go as far as to say that if you were supposed to swap the entire production team, like literally every single person went over to DC and then went over to Marvel, you essentially will get the same thing because there's still a singular person or a group of people in the executive portion of this that would make it fail. They would sabotage everything that was going on and essentially make it difficult for the directors to do their jobs. Regardless of however you feel about somebody standing up for their crew or not, you still have somebody that has the utmost power to be able to shut down your production or have somebody else come in and switch things up on you. The reason why James Gunn looks so good as he does now is primarily because Marvel allowed him to do his job. So DC is looking at that like, let's hire him so that he can basically make us look good and make us a lot of money. The problem is that without that accolade of having Marvel allow him to do his job, DC would essentially look at him the same way they look at Schneider and say, you know what, you're not doing things the way we want you to because we want more money and you're failing, when the reality is not so. Now, I put numbers up, but you don't have to believe me. If you look at the DC movie Snyder was involved in, which I think it was like 5 movies versus the 5 movies that Marvel had, they were essentially doing the same numbers. Realistically, they were doing really well. The problem is that the exec came in and was like, no, we need more. And that greed essentially had the DCEU fail. And of course, it failed during the best comic book run of all time when, people are really getting into it. So I don't trust WB to do a good job now because James Gunn did a good job on the Superman movie. But once things start to kind of go left on the side stories, they're probably going to panic. But that's what I have to say for now. Till next time. Peace.